Good day, it is I, the Bleach Demon. And I've been thinking about this quite a bit. And I think we need to kind of address what I'll call the Normie Problem. Now, I'm sure everybody's thinking, oh, he's going to be dragging normies through the dirt like they deserve. And actually, no. No, I'm actually not. So just to get a little context here. Yeah. Looking at Urban Dictionary, normie, person gravitating to social standards, accepted practices, and fads of their own time, geographic grouping without border cultural perspectives of which they draw. Normies possess lack of interest in ideas not easily accessible or being outside of their society's current range of acceptance. A straight, a follower, a square. And Merriam-Webster's dictionary, yeah, kind of the same thing. Term normie has emerged as both a noun and an adjective, referring to one whose tastes, lifestyles, habits, attribute are mainstream, far from cutting edge, or a person who's not otherwise notable or remarkable. And yeah, go to Know Your Meme. Talks about the spread of normies. It's kind of the old square from the 1950s and all that jazz. But the reason I bring this up is whether it's on the Sultan's podcast or on some of the other podcasts out there like the Lotus Eaters, or you could say like, well, maybe not Tim Beanie Man Pool, but there's a lot of disdain for normies, which is, believe me, very acceptable, and they bring it upon themselves for most of it. But it really got me to thinking the other day, listening to the Lotus Eaters, and they're engaging in a lot of, shall we say, erudite terminology and going after really kind of the intellectual side of debates, which needs to be had. There's no doubt about that. But I keep getting hung up on how do you make this digestible for the normie? Thus, we have a normie problem. And the left has been masterful in crafting narratives for the normies. I mean, everything mainstream. Typically left-leaning. It depends on how askew to the left it is. But that's normie culture. I remember a story from one of my mother's friends who thought, well, Joe Biden's such a nice man. That's like, he's one of the worst politicians America has produced in the last 100 years. But because it was so well crafted, the narrative, that the normies fell through the cracks and couldn't see anything that was of use to them as far as trying to understand the political world outside of what they're being force-fed by the news media. And that's a real problem. Because me personally, I'm never going to be content in just saying, yes, I went down with my principles swinging. Yeah, my country went to hell. But, hey, I was able to go out and say, yeah, I did the right thing by standing by my principles. But I use facts and logic alone to go after the normies. Well, I'm sorry to say, that's the quickest way to go down with any ship whatsoever. And while, yes, principles are very important to have, and I'm not going to say don't stand on them, but we really need to figure out better ways to communicate this information that we're pushing, our narratives, onto the general public. Which means we've got to water it down. And that means we have to kind of suck it up and say, hey, we don't have the levers of power, and pretending that we do is a fatal flaw. Because how many times has facts, logic, statistics won over any normie? Maybe 1 in 10 at most. So I think it's important that we, kind of look to ourselves and say, okay, what is it that we can do to convince the normies out there that, one, their politics are absolute garbage and wrong and should be discarded aggressively, but more importantly, what can we do to go out and advocate in such a way that it doesn't sound like we're talking over people's heads all the damn time? And I don't have answers. I really don't. This is more of a posing a question to you, the audience. Especially as, the holidays are getting closer and closer. We have to figure out how to combat this. And not just, sitting there having arguments with, the skin flute playing lunatic, lefty who's going to charge out there and say it's for the children, even though we know what they do to children. But yeah, it's like, how do we completely fail at getting this meme? Oh my. But yeah, it's a genuine question, because nobody seems to, on the right of center, really want to communicate with the normies. We want to sit over here and mock them, which they deserve. They really do. But we're not going to win elections. We're not going to change the narrative by mocking and ignoring these people, because I think we're kind of veering off into the wrong direction with who we're mocking. And it should always be the left. The further left someone is, the harder they should be mocked. And I'm not seeing it. I'm seeing us tripping up over having to deal with the normies by coming across as smarter than everyone else. Well, that's what the left did. That's what Fauci did. That's what Al Gore did, is come across and, doing the "this is NPR" type speak. And where has that gotten us? Nowhere. We're most of us are down and dirty in the trenches dealing with this stuff. And we've got to come up with a way of saying, hey, Normie, this is information that you can digest. This is good stuff that you need to understand, and it's not above you. You're smart enough to grasp this. And maybe they are, maybe they aren't. But it's kind of important for us to engage them on their level. Now, does that mean we streamline our principles? Maybe. Maybe just a little. Maybe we don't spurg off into, the libertarian territory where people get hung up on the non-aggression principle and things like that. But I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. And that's what I'm posing to you, the audience. What do you think we can do to practically change the narrative over time? Because it's going to take years for pretty much everyone right of Mao to be able to communicate with normies in a way they can understand, a way that convinces them, and a way that doesn't make them feel stupid. Because the moment you make someone feel stupid, you've lost the argument. No matter how right you are, you've completely lost the argument. And we've got to do that because I am damn tired of losing elections. I'm damn tired of the left running roughshod over pretty much the entire world, getting away with it, not being held to account. Why? Because we on the right refuse to talk to the normies. So, I'd be fascinated to see what ideas you all have down in the comments below. And hopefully we come up with a solution that leads to ultimate victory. And on that note, and this really creepy AI-generated image, I leave you. Bleach out.
Yeah, there you go.